Picture a city built on a glacier. The foundation seems completely permanent, right up until the ice begins to fracture, and the ground you built your entire business on simply gives way. In software strategy, we call this platform risk. It is the acute vulnerability of relying on an underlying capability engine that is controlled entirely by a third party. Right now, artificial intelligence companies are grappling with this exact threat. If the foundational models provided by massive tech labs are constantly getting smarter, faster, and cheaper, eventually becoming free, how do you build a business that actually survives? This chart traces 3 AI startups. They took distinct paths: a horizontal wrapper, an alternative search engine, and a vertical tool. The first line, spiking then collapsing, relied on a temporary capability gap. The parabolic line built on proprietary data, creating structural lock-in. The data across these cases points to a strict reality. Raw AI capability offers no long-term protection. Defensibility requires constructing structural walls around the model through precise positioning and deep integration. Consider Jasper AI. Founded in 2021, Jasper was an early breakout hit, offering a tool that generated marketing copy on top of OpenAI's language models. Looking at this timeline, you can see their peak in October 2022. They raised $125 million, pushing their valuation to $1.5 billion. Exactly 1 month later, that bubble popped. A competitor launched a free tool that could write the exact same marketing copy. That competitor was OpenAI, the very platform provider whose models powered Jasper in the first place. Because the underlying AI engine was identical, Jasper's core value proposition was commoditized overnight. Users who previously paid for AI-generated text could now get similar results at zero cost. The financial impact was immediate. Customer counts plummeted from a peak of nearly 100,000. Internal revenue projections for 2024 were slashed by at least 30%, and the company was forced to cut its internal valuation down to $1.2 billion. The physical toll followed the financial one. Between 2023 and 2025, the company executed 4 separate rounds of layoffs, and both co-founders stepped out of their operating roles. To survive, Jasper abandoned the general consumer market. They pivoted entirely toward enterprise marketing teams, specifically building tools that a blank slate chatbot lacks out of the box. They added brand voice memory, rigid workflow templates, and deep enterprise integrations. They built a shell around the AI that general users didn't need, but large companies would pay to maintain. Jasper fell into a capability trap. A business model that depends entirely on a platform provider, deciding not to ship a comparable product, is destined to collapse the moment they do. Our second case study, Perplexity, approaches defensibility entirely differently. They position themselves explicitly against the world's largest search monopoly. They are targeting Google directly. To understand how a startup competes with a multi-trillion-dollar incumbent, we use the jobs to be done framework. You don't build a better version of the competitor's tool. You optimize for an entirely different job. This diagram shows the structural contrast. On the left, Google's traditional job is providing a ranked list of links for you to sort through. On the right, Perplexity's job is synthesizing a direct, cited answer. Perplexity CEO Aravind Srinivas makes the strategic thesis clear. In a world where everyone gets answers and doesn't have to click on links, the biggest loser is Google. Fulfilling that specific job requires a completely different business model. In 2026, Perplexity dropped advertising entirely to become an ad-free, trustworthy alternative, targeting $500 million in annualized subscription revenue instead. Real market data backs this move. Polling from Ipsos found that 63% of U.S. adults say ads embedded in AI search results actively reduce their trust in the output. But building a moat out of a promise creates a positioning vulnerability. If your entire pitch is built on being the trustworthy alternative to ad-driven data harvesting, your internal practices have to perfectly match that pitch. In 2026, a lawsuit alleged that Perplexity had secretly shared user query data, paired with identifying information, with the very ad networks they claimed to stand against. The allegation claimed user data was sent directly to Meta and Google. A jobs-to-be-done strategy can easily drive 800% year-over-year growth, but positioning is ultimately just a promise. A data practice that quietly contradicts the core value proposition is a massive strategic risk. Our final case study, Harvey, bypassed both consumer capability traps and horizontal search engines. They bet entirely on one specific vertical: legal work. The financial results of that narrow focus materialized quickly. Harvey reached $300 million in annual recurring revenue in less than 4 years. That growth attracted intense institutional backing, culminating in a massive 2026 funding round led by GIC and Sequoia. This block diagram illustrates a mathematical paradox in that funding round. Harvey was valued at $11 billion, yet the entire estimated market for legal AI software at the time was only $5.6 billion. This valuation reflects a bet that Harvey is expanding the market itself, projecting future revenue far beyond the current limits of legal software spend. They achieved this reach through deep structural integration. Instead of training on public internet data, Harvey trains custom models directly on a firm's proprietary documents. Because this involves highly sensitive legal data, Harvey built strict security and compliance walls around their models. This elevates the product from a simple user preference to structural lock-in. Switching to a competitor means tearing out a secure, custom-trained infrastructure. This stickiness shows up in their core metrics. Harvey uses seat-based expansion pricing, and their internal data shows that the median seat count doubles within 12 months of a firm signing up. That specific metric indicates that users are moving beyond superficial novelty and into daily, irreplaceable workflow adoption. Deep vertical integration creates a moat so secure and switching costs so high, it justifies valuations that completely transcend the addressable market's current bounds. We map these outcomes onto a single matrix, the defensibility spectrum. Jasper's capability gap is highly vulnerable, easily crushed by foundation models. Perplexity's positioning creates a stronger defense, but remains vulnerable to misalignment. Harvey's vertical integration proves most insulated, embedding proprietary data into regulated workflows. But Harvey is now introducing a complication. Their stated ambition is to expand outside of legal work entirely, pushing into insurance and financial services to become a broader knowledge worker platform. If they abandon their strict vertical focus to chase horizontal growth, they risk exposing themselves to the exact same platform threats that destroyed Jasper's early model. Building an AI startup is like defending a fortress against an overwhelming, inevitable force. Foundation models will continue advancing, eroding everything in their path. Assume the foundation model will eventually do your core task for free. True defensibility has nothing to do with raw capability. Strategy is exclusively about the walls you build around the model.